We all know there's a lot of good features in games, some of them so good that once you see it in one game, you start seeing it in pretty much every game. Ain't that right, Ubisoft? But then you've got the features that just aren't very good. You know, the ones that don't ruin a game, but we all, or at least I, would have preferred if they just weren't included, or at least were implemented differently. And yeah, here's a bunch of them. Enjoy! Last Man Standing, Max Payne 3. A lot of people might disagree with me on this one, and I understand if they do. I mean, for the most part, Last Man Standing is a pretty cool and useful mechanic. It's simple enough. If you lose all your health but you've still got some painkillers on you, rather than just die, you consume some of those tasty drugs of yours and go into bullet time and get the chance to kill the arsehole who filled you full of lead. You kill him in time, you get to continue. You don't, well, you can guess what happens. So what's wrong with that, Davey, I hear you ask? I mean, it sounds like a pretty useful feature, and as I've already said, yeah, it is. I'd have loved to have had that shit in the original Max Payne's, but it still can be annoying sometimes. I mean, it wouldn't be on this list otherwise. Two things. Firstly, while it is useful, it can also be a bit irritating since it just breaks up the flow of gameplay. Like you might be in the middle of a fight, have a good kill streak going, feeling like a slightly older and more decrepit John Wick, but then you take one bullet too many and bam! Slow motion. You end up on the ground and all the momentum's gone, especially at higher difficulties where it's happening in almost every other shootout, and it just feels jarring when it happens, especially if it comes out of nowhere and you weren't expecting it. But that's really just an extra nitpick. The main reason is, if you're just going along, about to turn a corner or near some cover what's got an enemy hiding behind, they might just hit you before you see them, and if by chance you maybe hadn't noticed that your health's low, you go into Last Man Standing and go to shoot the guy, but oh no, you can't see the fucker, and you can't shoot through walls, so what are you supposed to do? Well, nothing! Yep, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, except just sit there and watch your life slowly slip away from you. Can't even load the game to get straight back into the action. And it takes a while for you to finally die as well. It goes on for a good 10 seconds or so. And I know that might only seem like a long time in this age of TikTok, fake ADHD, can't sit still for 2 seconds without watching 5 videos at once brain rot. But when there's nothing to do but sit there and watch your final death throes, it does feel a lot longer than it actually is. So yeah, it's annoying as fuck when it happens at the best of times, but it's the absolute fucking worst when it happens in hardcore New York Minute mode. Oh yeah, you remember this shit. Gotta get through the whole game in one sitting without dying once. So if, for example, you've gotten pretty far into the game, let's say about 2/3 of the way through, you've wiped out the latest wave of faceless goons and are mopping up the stragglers, low health, no painkillers left, and then some joker gets a lucky shot on you from behind cover because the enemies all just magically know where you are, and then, yeah, all there is to do is just sit and watch as the fruits of your labours slip through your fingers, and come to terms with the reality that you just wasted a couple hours of your finite time on this earth, all for nothing. Rage doesn't even cover it. Now this is, admittedly, extremely rare, to the point that I was only able to capture it a few times after hours of playing. Yeah, figures. It happens, at least, often enough when I'm playing properly for me to notice and put it on this list, but when I actually want it to happen, it doesn't. Yeah, that's video games for you. So yeah, while 99% of the time it's a great feature that actually comes in useful, it can also be annoying. You might even say it can be a pain. Yeah, let's move on. Reaper Chase, Mass Effect 3. So this is admittedly a pretty minor one, but it's my list and I'll put whatever I want on it, thank you very much. So let me just begin this entry by saying that Mass Effect 2 is my favourite game of all time. It's not a perfect game, for such a mythical beast is just that, a myth, but it comes pretty damn close in my humble opinion. I can't say the same for Mass Effect 3. And that's not to say it's a bad game, because it most definitely isn't. I just didn't find it quite as enjoyable as its predecessor. And don't even get me started on the ending, I'll never get over that shit. Never! But anyway, you know the story. After 2 whole games, the Reapers have finally gotten off their lazy arses and invaded the galaxy and are making a right old mess, and you've got to put a stop to it. So while gallivanting around the Milky Way in your quest to gather allies and resources to fight the giant intergalactic cuttlefish, you'll be scanning planets to find said allies and resources, and a few side quests as well. Trouble is, since by this point the Reapers, rather understandably, have a huge raging hard-on for old Commander Shepard and their band of merry men, and as such are on the lookout for you. So every time you use the scanner, you'll notice this little meter starting to fill, indicating how close the Reapers are to zeroing in on your location. And when it fills completely, oh dear, we've been rumbled. And to keep yourself and your companions from becoming Reaper food, you just have to fly out of the system. And there you go, you ditch the fuckers. Eat my dust, Harbinger, you annoying and oddly erotic sounding piece of shit.
I know you feel this.
Now back in the day, when I played ME3 for the first time, I actually thought this was a pretty cool feature for the first 2 or 3 times it happened, after which it just became tiresome and repetitive, and it wasn't any better when I came back for the remasters either. Yeah, it doesn't take long to get irritating when you're just trying to find shit and you've got these arseholes turning up all the time and chasing you away, and it often doesn't take them long to find you. Sometimes they'll detect you after just 1 or 2 scans. And you can't just leave the system and go back in, cause the bastards will still be there. So instead you've got to leave the star cluster completely and go somewhere else. And it's not like anything interesting happens if they catch you either, which you pretty much have to let happen since it's usually so easy to escape. But no, you don't even get like a quick cutscene of the Normandy getting blasted into space dust or anything. Nah, it just fades to black and then oh, you're dead. And I know they probably figured that you wouldn't be seeing it all that much, so what's the point? But come on man, that's just lazy. Yeah, many today, myself included, consider BioWare to pretty much be a shadow of its former self. Hell, it probably isn't even that now. You know what I'm talking about. And if you ask me, this was where the cracks were first beginning to show. Well, maybe actually Dragon Age 2. And the less said about fucking Andromeda, the better. Can't pause the game. Soulsborne games. Oh, I might get it in the neck from the FromSoft fanboys for this one, but fuck it. And this may not seem like a feature per se, but I'd argue that it is, since it was obviously a deliberate design choice on the part of the developers, and it has a significant effect on the gameplay experience. And again, my list. So yeah, even if you've never played them, you're probably familiar with the Soulsborne games and their reputation for being some of the hardest and most unforgiving titles in modern gaming. The reasons for this are various, and usually ubiquitous across most of FromSoft's recent titles, since, let's face it, at their heart they are all pretty much just the same fucking game over and over again with just a different coat of paint on top. And one of these ubiquitous reasons is the fact that there's no way to pause the game. Yep, whereas in most similar games, opening your inventory or what have you in the middle of a battle gives you a brief respite from the action. Here, ho not here. Nah, instead here, when you open your inventory, the fight's still going, with the enemies still free to pummel the ever-loving shit out of you. Now I understand not stopping the game when you open your inventory or your map, because that's just part of the challenge. It means you have to be a bit more strategic about it. But not being able to pause the game at all? Bullshit! And if you don't see what's wrong with that, let me refer you to my main influence, the angry video game nerd, who puts it far more eloquently than I ever could.
I mean, if you gotta go answer the phone or take a shit, it's like tough shit if you gotta take a shit. You gotta take a quick shit. You gotta have turbo turds. I'm trying to play the game. I got shit stains in my pants and an answering message on my phone that says, "Sorry, I'm playing Ghostbusters 2 on Nintendo." What a selfish game. Bottom line, have a fucking pause button. God damn it!
So yeah, like he says, if you're in the middle of a fight and have to step away for some reason, you've pretty much got no choice but to just let yourself die. And it's not like having a dedicated pause screen separate from all the other menus would make the game any easier either, since you can't really do anything from the pause menu, like use your inventory items or craft shit or whatever. And before I get any comments going, well actually, yes I know you can do things like return to the bonfires or sites of grace and whatnot, or you can just return to the main menu, both of which essentially pause the game, but that doesn't help when you're in the middle of a boss battle and have to step away, since it effectively means you've got to back out of the fight and results in lost progress. No, I'm referring specifically to the ability to press a button to instantly stop and start the game whenever you need to. And yes, I also know there's technically a way to do it in Elden Ring, but it's still not the same since you've got to fuck around going through menus and shit, cause that's not annoying when you're in the middle of a fight and all of a sudden have to dip out for a second. So yeah, while FromSoft purists may well disagree, I always thought it was an unnecessary detail that makes the games more annoying than they have to be. Lord knows these fucking games are already annoying enough as they are, but that's just my opinion. Please don't kill me. Friends, GTA 4. An old classic. Yeah, you know about this one. We've all seen the "Hey Nico, let's go bowling" shit. But in case you somehow don't know what I'm talking about, I'll break it down for you. So basically, in GTA 4, when you weren't busy doing jobs for the denizens of the Liberty City underworld, you could call some of the friends you made over the course of your adventure to go out and do activities such as bowling, darts and pool, etc. So yeah, that's cool, gives you stuff to do outside of the main story and also gives us a chance to find out a bit more about some of the characters. That's all fine. But where it starts to get a bit irritating is the fact that your friends can also call you. Which they will. Frequently. And while this can sometimes be amusing, like when they call you during missions to ask you if you want to go to the strip club or whatever while you're busy driving a truck full of explosives around the city, it's not quite as funny when you're just going around, having fun, exploring, fucking with the cops, etc. And they just won't leave you the fuck alone. I mean, god damn it, Roman, for the last time, I don't want to go to the bowling alley. The floors are sticky there. Why won't you just leave me alone? Stop it! Now! And yeah, you can turn them down, and they'll be cool with it, or at least they'll act like it, when really they're probably like, yeah, fuck you, you piece of shit, you don't want to spend time with me, huh? But that then causes your relationship with them to drop, and it won't be long before someone else is calling you to do something else. Man, having friends is such a drag. Good thing I don't have that problem. Now, to be fair, you don't actually have to bother maintaining your relationship with your buddies. It doesn't have a huge impact on gameplay, except that if you get your relationship high enough, you'll unlock some special benefits, like being able to call Roman for a free taxi or buy guns from little Jacob. Although, to be honest, aside from those two, I never really bothered with any of the other ones, like Brucey's helicopter. And yeah, you can also just turn on sleep mode on your phone to stop everyone from calling you, but sleep mode's weird. It doesn't really work as intended. Like, sometimes it'll just turn itself off and you've got to remember to keep turning it back on. So that's annoying in and of itself. For fuck's sake, man, just leave me alone. I just want to play Cube 3D. So yeah, just pretty annoying all around, but thankfully they fixed it in GTA 5. Yeah, you've still got the friend activities, but they don't call you and will only want to do something with you when you call them, just like how it is in real life. Yeah. Fucked up save systems. Various titles. So if you've been a viewer of my channel for a while, you'll probably know that one of the many things I can't stand in a game is when they make it an absolute ball ache just to save the fucking thing. Now, most kids these days won't know the struggle us old fuckers went through, because all games just have autosave now, which, to be honest, loads of older games had as well. But there were still plenty that just apparently didn't get the memo on that shit, where you were only able to save manually, but then there were some that managed to fuck even that up. I mean, this should be simple. You pause the game, you select save game, your progress is saved, and you get to continue from the point you saved next time you load the game. Why does this have to be so complicated? But no, there's plenty games out there that were like, you know what, that's too simple, let's make it harder. Why? I don't know. Just to be wankers, I suppose. One of the main examples that comes to mind is the original Crash Bandicoot, where, as you'll likely remember if you saw my review of that game, the only way to save is to either beat the level's bonus round, some of which can be pretty difficult, especially since you only get one chance to do them, or to collect a gem at the end of each level, which to do you have to break all the boxes in the level without dying. So yeah, that's already bullshit enough as it is, but then add the fact that many levels have areas with crates which can only be accessed with shit, namely the coloured gems, which you can't get until later on, so there's literally whole parts of the game where you can't save, or it's at least really difficult to do so. So if you quit or get game over, you don't just have to redo one level, you've got to redo multiple levels. Great. Thanks for that. Then you've got the likes of Resident Evil, where not only can you only save at the conveniently placed typewriters dotted about this weird ass fucking mansion, which are few and far between as it is, but you can only do so if you've got a fucking ribbon on you, which of course takes up space in your already insanely limited inventory. Because why? I mean, I know why, it's to make the game more of a challenge. But there's adding challenge, and then there's making the thing a total pain in the arse that I just want to throw out the fucking window and never touch again for the rest of my fucking days. And it's not just restricted to old games either. Well, super old games. I mean, you've got shit like the older GTA games where you could only save at your fucking safe house, so you've got to remember to do that every time you switch off to make sure you don't end up losing a whole bunch of progress. But at least it's better than in the original, where you could only save after beating one of these long-ass fucking levels or chapters that take about an hour each. So yeah, that's something, and just one of the reasons why GTA 1's a colossal load of wank. You want to know more? Well, why don't you check out my review? But probably the most annoying one I can think of was Dead Rising. Yeah, you know, Dawn of the Dead the game, pretty much. It was basically the same as Resident Evil. Not really a surprise since they were both made by Capcom, who it seems just has some kind of weird fetish for annoying save systems. So yeah, as you make your way around this shopping mall, slaughtering zombies in increasingly inventive and hilarious ways and discovering the source of the outbreak, you can only save your progress at the few bathrooms and safe rooms dotted about the place. And you've got to remember to do it regularly, cause it's not hard to get caught up in the action and end up playing for ages without saving until you finally get killed and then, oh no, I forgot to save. And then you've got to go all the way back and do all that shit again. Or maybe you've saved and then go to take on one of the annoying as fuck bosses in that game, the fucker kills you and then you're sent back to the bathroom or safe room or whatever, and you've got to drag your sorry arse all the way back over there just to have another crack at the wanker. Just, what's the point? Well, I already know what the point is. Again, it's to make the game more challenging. But does it really though? Does making it harder to save and then forcing you to replay bits you've already done when you forget really make the game more challenging? Or does it just make it more annoying? I vote for the latter, which it seems the guys who worked on the remaster or remake or whatever the fuck it is felt as well, since they added autosave and checkpoints and shit, along with many other changes. But they also took out the erotic photo category as well. Now it's ruined! Rod Humble, The Sims 2. So this is just a personal one for me. I haven't really mentioned it on the channel, but I've always been a big fan of The Sims. The Sims 2 at least. Fuck off Sims 4, you're not the same. And yeah, I see you looking at me like that just cause I said I like The Sims. Hey, I like fucking Call of Duty and Dark Souls and GTA as well, so get off my back, will ya? And while, yeah, there are some aspects of The Sims 2 that haven't aged completely well, I still enjoy going back to it even to this day. But there's one thing about it I hate, but it's not a what, it's a who. This wanker, Rod fucking Humble. I despise this motherfucker with every fibre of my being, and I don't know why. Maybe it's his stupid ass haircut and big goofy face. Maybe it's the off-putting, artificial seeming cheeriness about him, like he hasn't got a care in the world or something. That reminds me of that episode of The Sopranos, The Happy Wanderer or some shit.
I see some guy walking down the street, you know, with a clear head. You know the type. He's always fucking whistling, like the happy fucking wanderer. And I just want to go up to him and I just want to rip his throat open. I want to fucking grab him and pummel him right there for no reason.
Or maybe it's the fact that he's got the gall to just waltz onto my property uninvited with his ugly shirt and pretentious dialogue just to drop off some random shite I never asked for, which he'll then order me to open. Like, fuck off, mate. I don't know you, and I don't want to. I mean, would you trust some random weirdo you've never seen before who just turns up on your doorstep literally minutes after you just moved in and then gives you some random package before fucking off again without another word? He could be trying to unload some fucking Dybbuk box on you or some shit. The fuck out of here with that shit. I hate this guy. He's worse than the fucking roofers and boiler people and shit. I wish he would just fucking die. And before anyone says, yes, I know he's based on an actual person who was a developer at Maxis at the time, and I'd just like to make it abundantly clear that I'm not talking about him. He's probably a nice guy for all I know. I mean, you've gotta be with a name like Rod Humble, right? Nah, I just hate his in-game counterpart. Nothing at all against the man himself. I wish him no ill fortune. In fact, I was actually a bit sad when I heard Life by You had been cancelled. But for the lucky ones among you who are probably scratching your heads and wondering, what the fuck is this Rivet going on about? Who is this guy? I'll break it down for you. Basically, he's an NPC who comes packaged with the game, although in truth he's not part of the Sims 2 base game. Now, he was added in the free time expansion what came out in 2008, pretty much as a marketing tool for the Sims 3 that would release the following year. Basically, after the expansion is installed, whenever you start a new household or an existing household for the first time, it won't be very long before this cheery douchebag rocks up to your front door completely uninvited, where he'll then deposit this random present, daring you to open it, before fucking off back to whatever bottomless pit he crawled out of. Now, you can either do the smart thing and nuke that shit off the face of the earth, but if you decide to be a naive fucker and too trusting for your own good and open it, turns out the package actually contains a unique computer not found in the buy mode catalogue. It functions the same as all other computers in the game, except it also comes with an extra game installed, The Sims 3. Sims 3 in The Sims 2? Ooh, how meta. And yeah, it's basically just a short clip of early gameplay from The Sims 3, again just to promote the upcoming sequel, cause yeah, like there was a Sims player alive who didn't know about The Sims 3 at that point. And that's all there is to it. He never comes back, you can't interact with him or anything, can't be friends with him. He's just a tiny, inconsequential part of the game, little more than an Easter egg, and yet his mere existence just grinds my gears like nothing else, for reasons that, like I said, even I don't fully understand. Now, there are ways that you can rid yourself of this annoying prick, at least temporarily. You can use cheats like move objects to select them in buy mode and then delete them, or you can turn on testing cheats and then force error his sorry ass, but these don't remove him permanently, he'll just be back the next time you start a new household, he just won't die! Why don't you just die? Although there do exist mods that will stop him from appearing completely, so I guess there are others out there who feel the same way. So yeah, I've just wanted to rant about this for so long, and this just seemed like the best opportunity I'd ever get to do so. So yeah, just fuck this guy. But again, not the real one. Co-op mechanics in single player, Halo 5. Now I know what you're probably thinking right now. Halo 5? I thought this was meant to be annoying features in good games. And yeah, I know it's received a lot of criticism over the years, but I still think Halo 5's a good game. It's just not a very good Halo game. In fact, it's probably the worst of the lot if you ask me, at least out of the main series. There are a few reasons for this. The story, the fact you need to read and watch a ton of extra stuff to fully understand said story, the boring characters, the fact you only play as Master Chief in like, what, 2 missions or something ridiculous like that, the fucking Warden Eternal. But probably the biggest reason, for me at least, was the inclusion of co-op mechanics in the single player campaign. Now co-op's nothing new to Halo, but in Halo 5 they expanded the idea with the introduction of Blue Team and Fire Team Osiris, the respective teams for Master Chief Petty Officer John 117 and shit, what's this guy's name again? Fucking Spartan Locke or some shit? Who cares, he's pretty much just a block of wood. Spartan Block more like. But anyway, throughout the story, you'll have these guys fighting alongside you. Now of course, in co-op mode, your teammates are controlled by other players, and if one or more go down, you'll have the chance to revive them to get them back in the fight, like we see in many squad-based shooters, and that's all fine. But if you're playing by yourself, then your squad mates are controlled by the game, and again, that's fine. I mean, the AI functions well enough, and you can give them commands, although I never really bothered with that shit. But where the problem lies is of course when you lose all your health, rather than just die and be sent back to your last checkpoint like in every other entry in the series, instead your armor locks up or whatever, you go down and then you've got to wait to be revived by one of your teammates. Which is fine in co-op since your teammates are being controlled by actual human beings who can get to you pretty quick, but they also have it in single player, and even though I said the AI is fine enough, it's still far from perfect. So yeah, when you go down and call for your squad mates to come and revive you, they'll often take their sweet fucking time to get their asses in gear and get over and heal you so you can get back in the fight. And all the while, there's nothing to do except watch and wait, which is often made longer when the squad mate you were waiting for goes down, and then you've got to wait for someone else. Now this isn't such a huge problem on lower difficulties, at least until you get later into the game, but where it really becomes an almighty pain in the arse is on shit like heroic or, God forbid, legendary. You know, where you're dying like 15, 20 times a minute or something. Ah, fun times. And of course, Halo 5's no different, except now when you die, you don't actually die and have to wait like 5-10 seconds or whatever for someone to come and revive you, which may not seem like very long, but it soon starts to when it's happening multiple times a minute, especially when the wait's made longer as one by one the rest of your squad goes down until the last person gets killed and you're at last released from this circle of hell because there's no one left to revive you and you're finally allowed to die.
When all of your teammates have fallen, then you have my permission to die.
And again, we're on Legendary now, so this is happening in practically every fight, to the point where you almost spend more time waiting to be revived than you do actually playing the fucking game. I mean, I get why it's in co-op, because that adds an extra dimension to the gameplay and working as a team and whatnot. And again, you're actually playing with humans who in general respond better than AI teammates, but why is it in single player? It's just irritating. I mean, if I lose all my health, I'd rather just die and get sent back to the last checkpoint than have to wait for these fuckers to drag their stupid asses over here and heal me. Although admittedly, it can be funny when you're playing as Master Chief, since when he goes down, he'll say, I'm down, and when he gets revived he says, I'm up, and he can actually end up stuck in a cycle of him going, I'm down, I'm up, I'm down, I'm up.
I'm down, I'm up, I'm down, I'm up, I'm down, I'm up, I'm down, I'm up.
But yeah, I hate this shit. It just made the game way more annoying than it should have been. Yeah, it's no surprise they got rid of it for Halo Infinite, only to replace it with a great big, mostly empty open world what we didn't need. Yeah, thanks. Turn-based combat, Knights of the Old Republic, and many, many, many others. Oh yeah, I've saved the most controversial one for last. Now I know some people, many people, a lot of people like turn-based combat, and if you do, great, that's fine. You do you, more power to you. I don't like turn-based combat, to the point where if I see a game that I like the look of, but then see that it has turn-based combat, that pretty much kills my interest in it, and it'll be highly unlikely that I'll play it. It's just not my thing. I mean, I'm mostly going with Knights of the Old Republic for this entry, since that's literally the only game with turn-based combat that I think I've ever put a significant amount of time into. Yeah, I love this game. Don't love the combat though. So what have I got against turn-based combat? Well, there's a few things. One, it's usually just too slow and boring for me. I just personally don't find it to be all that stimulating. Now again, some may prefer a slower and more laid-back experience, and that's perfectly fine, it's just not to my taste. I like fast and exhilarating experiences that get my blood flowing and test my reflexes. He says after going on about how much he likes The Sims. Hey, that game can be exhilarating too, you know, like when you get a fire or some shit. Yeah. And hell, Knights of the Old Republic is actually one of the more stimulating examples, since the game doesn't pause between turns to make it seem more like the fight is happening in real time. But still, I doubt it's going to help you sharpen your reflexes all that much. Two is the fact that I'm just incapable of suspending disbelief to the point that I can accept that both the protagonists and enemy combatants would just stand perfectly still, waiting patiently for their turn to attack each other. That idea just does not truck with me. Like what, once the bad guys have had their turn, are they just gonna be like, okay, he's figuring out what he's gonna do next. Get your phones out, lads, go for a piss if you need it, we're gonna be here a while. And I know that's not necessarily true for every game with turn-based combat, it largely depends on the complexity of the game. I mean, going back to Knights of the Old Republic, the fights do go by pretty quick, again cause the game doesn't pause between turns and you make your decisions on which attacks and shit you want to do pretty much in real time. But you're still just standing there out in the open while you've got guys taking pot shots at you, and yeah, you can move around during the fight, but you can't actually shoot while you're moving just because. Like what, do they not teach that in the Republic military? So yeah, that's pretty much the limit that my suspension of disbelief can stretch to. But the biggest reason is that it essentially boils down each encounter to numbers and statistics and shit, with your chances of success depending largely on how well you've prepared for the fight beforehand. with what level you and your companions are, your stats and skills, the kind of abilities you've got, your weapons and armor, your buffs and shit, the number of health potions you're carrying, etc. And that's fine, but it mostly doesn't take into account your individual skill as a gamer. Like in Knights of the Old Republic, the game operates under the D20 system of Dungeons & Dragons fame, where during a fight you'll select what attack you want to do, and then the game rolls a dice to decide whether or not the attack is successful, again taking into account various factors including the ones I just mentioned, but again, not your skill as a gamer. You're not aiming at the enemies yourself or wielding a lightsaber looking for the right moment to land a killing stroke. Instead, you're at the mercy of the game and just whether or not it decides you hit the enemy. And some of the times you don't are honestly fucking ridiculous. Like, you could be standing literally a couple meters from a bad guy, you fire a shot but still manage to miss just cause the quote-unquote dice didn't land on the right number, and it's just like, fuck off. I would have easily made that shot if I was actually in control. Hell, a fucking stormtrooper in the original trilogy could have made that shot. I could have made that shot in real life, and I haven't fired a real gun in, well, let's just say a very long time. So yeah, that's just complete bullshit. But what's worse is, it can lead to you pretty much running into a brick wall that keeps you from progressing further into the game. Like, you can be pretty deep into a quest, but then you might run into an enemy that's just too strong for you. No matter what you do, he just trounces you every time. And really, the only thing you can do is go away, find some side quests or whatever to get your level up a bit higher, or find some better gear and then come back. And yeah, I know it's like that in things like the Soulsborne games, but 1, it's annoying as fuck when it happens there as well. 2, it's a different type of story, so it doesn't really break your immersion as much when it happens. And 3, at least I'm actually in control of the combat, and whether or not I'll lose isn't down to just dice rolls and stats and shit, it's also down to my skill as a gamer, and I can try it again and again and again until I get good enough and beat it, but that's just not gonna work here. And just to further drive home the point I'm making, take Elden Ring when you're going up against, let's say Malenia. Yeah, your chances of success are, admittedly, massively affected by how well you've prepared beforehand, with your level, your stats, your weapons and armor, and how much you've leveled them, etc. And if you haven't prepared properly, yeah, you're probably gonna die. A lot. But that's not all that determines your chances. There's also your own skill at the game. Like, you could go up against Malenia having never leveled up your character and without getting any better gear or anything, and again, you'll probably die many times. But if you keep on trying, you'll eventually get good enough and do it. And people have. Sick, twisted, crazy people. But if it were purely down to just your stats and weapons and shit, and with the game using dice rolls to decide whether your attacks hit and how effective they are, the chances are so low, yeah, you can keep trying for a million fucking years, it's just not gonna happen. But anyway, yeah, that's why I don't like turn-based combat. And again, if you do, that's perfectly fine. In fact, why don't you recommend me some games, since I know a lot of them do take place in fun and interesting worlds and have great stories and characters, to the point that I may just be willing to tolerate the irritating combat. And there you go, that's my list of annoying features and good games. Of course, it's not exhaustive, these are just the ones I could think of off the top of my head. Why don't you let me know in the comments if you agree with my choices and if you have any more, so I can steal them for another video. But anyway, thank you very much for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, then leave a like. If you didn't, then tell me to go fuck myself. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so if you enjoy my content and have yet to subscribe, I would be extremely grateful if you would do so. And of course, thank you so much to everyone who already has. And if you wish to support the channel further, then consider donating to my Patreon. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.